to a different setting. This is my kitchen.
This is Callie's kitchen, and we are baking.
We have been baking today. So we have our lovely cake. We have decided to recreate the Great British Baking Show cake from the intro, because why not?
Because I've always wanted to, because that cake just looks delicious. I mean, if you haven't seen the show...
I'll put a picture of it in here.
Yep. Just cover up my face with the cake, because that's okay with me. Sorry.
So we've made a cake. This is a yellow cake with, in the middle of the two cakes that we have, is a cream cheese raspberry buttercream thing that we made.
Frosting thing.
That's thing.
So delicious.
That's our middle. And then we have a chocolate frosting, and then we have strawberries to decorate.
Those are raspberries.
These are raspberries. So we have raspberries to decorate. So
this isn't quite as dark as the one in GBBO, but that's okay, because it's delicious.
It is very tasty.
And that's what matters.
I got lazy and didn't want to clean out what was the raspberry cream. So this is a chocolate raspberry cream cheese frosting.
So this is basically what she's saying, is that it is a bowl of deliciousness.
It is super tasty.
It really is. It is quite sweet.
We figured, with it being the holiday season, this is usually when I do a ton of my baking, and it's just a good time to bake. We would kind of just go through and have a little chat, because...
Why not?
Why not? We're trying something new.
We did. You guys will have to let us know what you think of it. I mean...
We will bake more. I can bake more. This has been a good time.
I mean, I make pies every so often, too. I make them for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, so we can always make pies, too. So we can do these things.
I'm usually a cupcake person.
Is it delicious?
Thank you.
What was the most recent one that you made? I didn't have one of those, but...
I made apple cider cupcakes for Thanksgiving, which turned out really good. And I also made pumpkin cheesecake cookies, which also turned out pretty good.
And I made a pumpkin pie, and then I made a... Oh, shoot, what was it? It was a maple rum... I think it was a maple rum apple pie. And it was actually really good. So that's what I make, usually, is pies, because I can just kind of throw it all together and then put it in a pie tin and then put it in the oven and kind of forget about it for a while. Because it always takes longer than you think.
I just like cupcakes, because you can just take them on the go.
It's true, you can.
You don't have to, walk around with a slice of cake and feel silly. You can walk around with a cupcake.
And not feel silly?
And not feel silly. I don't know if that's just how I feel.
We have some leftover of the filling, and it has filled an entire bowl.
We made maybe too much.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, we used,
not a lot of it.
We barely used any, honestly.
I thought it would be thicker, and it was not, and I was too lazy to try and figure out how to make it thicker. Because that's what baking is. It's a lot of trial and error.
It really is, and honestly, that's half the fun of it, too.
It is half the fun, because this has been a wild ride. I just sort of let my KitchenAid go.
And see what happens.
And, yeah, exactly.
I probably should help at some point. I'm just standing here watching you frost the cake.
That's fine.
Ooh. I don't actually know what I'm doing with cakes. I don't make cakes very much. I don't either. So this is our attempt at making a cake. And we still don't really know what we're going to talk about either in this whole thing. But
this moves a lot.
So I guess what we can talk about a little bit is the project that we've been working on. So the two of us have been working on a book series, technically. It's a duology, as of right now.
Correct.
It is a duology, so we are working on writing it, and we have our first couple beta readers, which is good, except for we haven't actually finished the first draft yet.
Well, no, we have a first draft.
We do have
a zero draft.
We have a zero draft. So our zero draft is together, which is good, so we know what happens in the books at least. But I don't know how many of you are writers, but there tend to be lots of drafts. Lots of drafts. We're expecting probably 7 drafts?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, we are currently editing our zero draft, which is really exciting, which we're kind of giving to some beta readers, which is really our friends. And that's really helpful because when you're so close to a project, when you're reading a book, when you're reading the same chapters over and over again, you tend to miss things like plot holes. There was a thing I read online, and it was very reminiscent of how I feel as a writer, and that is when Rick Riordan was writing Percy Jackson, he had his son's class read it, And then he was like, I'm thinking of naming it Son of Poseidon. And they were all like, but that gives away your big plot twist. And he's like, oh.
So, yes. And we haven't had anything that big, but we have had a couple.
We're pretty good about catching them.
For the most part, yes. But it's also, I think it's a little easier for us because there's two of us that we're able to catch what the other person does. And we hold each other accountable. Mostly she holds me accountable.
I'm like the manager.
She is, and I'm the writer that keeps forgetting to do things. I get distracted.
I thrive on deadlines.
I don't.
So I give myself deadlines, and then I give her deadlines. She ignores my deadlines.
I do.
And then I just pester her like a manager. It's a great time.
Until I get it done. And then I usually get it done within a couple days. But
so far the system's been okay.
It has worked for the most part. We have hit a couple roadblocks, and I think a lot of it is with some of the chapters that we wrote in our zero draft. We are basically rewriting a lot of them.
Yes.
We're rewriting them either from a different point of view, which has been an interesting one.
What we've kind of found that is really helpful is to write the same chapter in different points of view so that we can kind of see the whole picture. Because generally...
Do you want to just turn the cake?
Well, no, I have the camera for that.
Sorry.
We are having for the most part, 4 point of views, but throughout each book, we also pepper in 2 to 3 extra point of views, and those are really fun to write because then we can kind of see the situation from a different angle and thus get a better voice and a better understanding of what's happening at that point in the story.
It also helps us kind of gauge the reactions of some of our side characters, because I think one of the big things that I remember reading as far as writing advice goes is that each character believes that they're the main character of the story.
Exactly, and that also, yes.
So it's not like we're writing you and you are a side character and you know this. Like, no, you have your own story and you have your own history, so we've actually had to do a lot more kind of development than I think we originally thought we were going to.
Definitely a lot more.
Because while we have 2 main characters in our book, we have...
I would say, yeah.
9 characters?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8.
8. Oh, that's right. 8. Yes, we have 8.
But no, so we have generally about 8 to 9 characters.
Like that we would consider main characters.
Yeah. We have our main 4, which I would say is where we have the 4 voices. And then we have our actual main 2, which is how the whole story started. So we obviously can't go into too much detail, but basically it is a fantasy story of witches.
Yep. And so the way we kind of started this whole thing out was, we actually started it out, it's not this anymore, which is why I can say this.
Not even close.
But it started out as based off of zodiac signs. And we took each of the zodiac signs and we assigned a magic to it. And then we went from there. It has since developed and it is no longer zodiac sign based, like at all.
Not even a little.
But that's kind of where it started. And that's kind of the cool thing we've also realized with writing is that it's actually developed into something almost completely different.
But I definitely understand where a lot of authors come into play and say that, I don't tell my characters what to do. My characters tell me, and I just sort of sit there and write their antics. That is so true, because we had a plan for the story, and as we've written chapters, because we're both ADHD and both very chaotic, we have not written this book in order.
No.
Even a little.
At all.
Like, at all.
So, best thing is we actually have, so we use Notion mostly to write, and we actually have several chapters, or several areas in Notion that are just no longer using.
Because something will happen in an earlier chapter that will affect later chapters that we've already written, and we have to just be like, well, that no longer makes sense.
Like, we've written the end of the book.
Well, many times.
I think 3 times so far.
Ooh, I think it's more than that, but whatever.
I think so. I know the one scene I've written 3 times.
But I really like doing that because I really love these characters. They're a lot of fun to write. It's been a lot of fun to kind of explore and understand where these characters end up and, how they end up, why they end up. And it's a lot of fun.
It's also very frustrating.
Yeah.
We have gotten mad at the characters before.
Oh, several times.
I know I've kind of yelled at my characters. And be like, did you really did that? Really?
Like, you're an idiot.
Come on. Seriously? You should know better. Okay, maybe you don't know better. I know better. But still. It's a lot of fun. And I think one of the added things that we've also put in this story, and this isn't a spoiler, we've added familiars. And so familiars are like, they're animal, like, versions of the magic. And, well, not of the magic.
It's like an extension of their magic.
It's like, yeah, it's an extension of their magic, kind of like helps them with their magic. We've just made them a lot of fun. And we've already been threatened by one of the beta readers that if we kill any of them, he will come and he will yell at us in person.
Which is a good time. And that's kind of the thing we want to hear from our beta readers, is that our characters are connecting with them on that deep of a level.
Yes. So actually when he said that, we got really excited. We're like, oh, so he actually like cares about these characters. This is good, because it's not like they're 2D characters anymore. Suddenly they're actual, like, I don't want to say beings, but they're actual, like, people that you care about at that point. It's been a lot of fun to write, and we're definitely feel like we're learning a lot about our writing style as well.
It is, because that's kind of the nice thing about writing with a partner, is you always have a beta reader. And we wanted to write it together, so...
And the other thing is we have very different writing styles.
We do, but which helps with the editing, and it helps with making sure that our characters' voices are distinct. Like, I only write 2 point of views, and she only writes the other main 2 point of views, and we've been switching off with the other random side characters
depending on who knows which character, because we kind of developed our own characters in that kind of way, or someone had the idea. He did it!
And yeah, so it's been going really well, and our cake is now fully decorated,
and it looks really pretty. So now we have raspberries to eat.
Now we have raspberries to eat.
No, it definitely, and I think that's one thing that we were unsure about at first, was keeping everybody's voice separate and making sure it didn't sound too much like...
Monotone?
Yeah, too monotone or sounding too much... Like, I overwrite incredibly.
And I underwrite.
So it actually works out really well in that place, because I can add details to her scenes, that she's got these scenes down, like, exactly what happens. And I can add, not flowery bits, but make
Flourishes,
so that way it kind of flows a little bit.
And I can take out, she tends to over-describe or describe multiple times. So I can go in with that sharper eye and make sure that our word count isn't overly dramatic, which it is. Which is normal
I have
first draft.
No regrets.
I'd rather overwrite than underwrite.
True.
Which I'm still trying to learn.
But and it is. It's kind of like we're both getting better on that front, where I'll actually go through my writing and be like, all right, I already described this. I don't need to describe it again. We know what this looks like now. We don't need to do it again and again.
Correct.
And you're learning to add to the flourishes and stuff. So it's kind of like a bit of a crash course on writing.
It is, and we have a very yin-yang style, which really helps. So that's been a lot of fun to learn. We're still working on it. I mean, hopefully we'll end up getting it published, but that's definitely way out in the future.
Yeah, that would be several years out.
If something comes of it, I know we have a goal. I know originally our goal was at the end of this year to send out our query letters, but that's not going to happen. This year got a little busy.
It did. Yeah.
So I think for next year, we can have a goal of sending out our query letter by the end of the year.
And at least having the first book in a place where we're comfortable sending it to strangers. We're comfortable sending it out to an editor, like a professional editor, basically.
Yes.
Rather than just having friends edit.
Right. Which we would be looking for an agent first. That is step one that we've learned throughout. We've been to several author talks that have told us looking for an agent is your best bet. And then they are able to, it's just more eyes on your work and you can fine tune it. And I think one of the big things, a big hurdle for us was comparing our drafts to completed books.
Yeah.
Which you should never do.
You shouldn't do, but I will also admit it's very difficult not to do, especially being that we read a lot. Like, I know Callie reads a lot more than I do right now, but we both have a lot of books that we've read that are under our belts, and so you get to the first draft and you reread a chapter you just wrote for the first time, and it's like, well, this is terrible. I would never read this in a book. It's like, no, it's the first draft. Of course it's terrible.
Yep.
And it's kind of one of those things where, again, you go back to some of the writing advice that you look at, and a lot of this writing advice, like, it sounds common sense, but when you're in it, it
doesn't make
sense.
It
helps because you think about it, and it's just like, yeah, it doesn't make sense until you're actually writing. Like the whole thing where it's like, yeah, your plot might sound terrible by the time you're done with all your drafts, but it's because you've read it 150 times. Whereas someone who has never read it before is going to absolutely love it because they've never read it before.
That is also the hard thing about being a reader and a writer, but at the same time, helpful to be a reader and a writer is looking for tropes, because you're gonna reuse tropes. It's all how you bend it. And we use a ton of tropes.
We do.
In our books, but we try and stay away from the ones we personally hate, such as the miscommunication trope. We ignored that one. One of the tropes that we do have that I think is okay to say is the one bed trope.
We do have the one bed trope at one point.
We do, which is really fun. But we took our own spin on it. It's not like any other one bed trope I've read, but it is a one bed trope.
Yeah, and that's kind of the different thing also about writing is that a lot of people are like, well, come up with an original idea, and it's like, honestly,
those
every
don't
idea
sell.
Comes from somewhere. People are looking for retellings, especially right now. People want the retellings. They want that kind of stuff. That's what's gonna, like Callie said, that's what's gonna sell. Yeah. And so I wouldn't say ours is a retelling.
No, it's definitely not a retelling.
But it's definitely like, it's got those fantasy tropes in it.
Oh, yeah.
It does have that. It has surprises. I'd like to think that there are twists and turns that people won't see coming, but I think it'll be good.
Yeah, so that's our main one that we have. We also have 2 other whips, which are work in progresses, that we just kind of haven't touched, but we had these ideas that we've kind of put the general synopsis. So the first one that we have is the Norse Siren, which is exactly what it sounds. It is a mermaid fantasy story based on Norse mythology. Norse mythology, which has been really fun to try and figure out how to write mermaid movement, because you can't just be like, they walked over here, and you're like, nope, they don't have legs. They don't walk anywhere.
How do they breathe? Oh, shit.
And the other one is a supernatural mystery, technically.
It is. So the other one was originally my NaNoWriMo project for 2020, and I call it Basil, because that's the main character's name.
That one doesn't have a good name yet.
Not yet. We have some ideas, and I've been playing with Basil on and off. I have some more ideas for it, but I also wrote 60,000 words of Basil. So Basil has like a solid ground.
Foundation. Basil has a good foundation. Norse Siren is just a fun idea that at least I go in when I need to break from our whip that we were talking about earlier. We've been calling Forest Fire
because that's probably going to be the
name of the duology.
Series. Duology it would be.
So whenever I need a break from that, I'll go and work on Norse Siren just to kind of get those creative gears back a-flowing.
Yeah.
And that's what I typically do. So I spend more time in Norse Siren, which I actually haven't in a while, but we've been busy lately.
And I'll jump back into Basil a lot, and then I have other personal projects that I'm also working on, because my ultimate goal is to become a writer that is my main profession. Like, that is my ultimate goal, because that's what I want to do. So I've got 4 other whips, I think. I've got a supernatural one that actually I might talk to you at some point about that one, because that one has started to connect to Basil a little bit, and I don't know.
I'm a really good editor.
She is a very good editor. She edited a lot of Basil, which is how we ended up joint doing it. I'm still playing with Basil. Basil, like, sits in the back of my mind a lot. It's a story that I've actually had in my head for years, because I read a lot of cozy mysteries, and I wanted a cozy mystery that was supernatural, so I wrote one. But I also am writing 2 thrillers, a thriller and a horror and a romance. So I'm all over the place, kind of figuring out what I want to write. So
I definitely prefer the editing aspect, so I don't have any of my own personal whips. I prefer the more dual, because I'm not very good with my writing yet. Definitely not at the point of where Sarah's at, so I'm just very good at the editing, and then I am really good.
It's very helpful for me because I have no concept of timelines.
No, I am very, very good at keeping track of the timeline and figuring out. I love it when she'll text me at like 11:30 at night and be like, hey, when does this happen? And I have the answer like immediately.
She does. Every single time. And it's just be like, so I think this happens, but I don't remember. And she'd be like, no, that's like a year later. Oh, my bad.
So I'm very good at keeping track of that stuff, which makes me a pretty decent editor. It's just the writing part of actually. It's just Typically, a lot of my chapters are just a straight up outline and then dialogue.
Which works for me because I'm able to practice adding those flourishes in. And I read a lot of really weird books. If you haven't been watching the channel, you might not know this, but I read a lot of mainstream books. Mostly because I know she reads most of them. So you're able to get a lot of those reviews from Callie, and Callie gives very thorough reviews, so you're not going to get anything better from me. I read, and I'm kind of I jump around in my reading, but I've been reading a lot of mysteries lately, so I've been adding a lot more that kind of terminology into my writing.
Which is great, because the more you read, the more terminology you can get and you understand, and I really enjoy doing that.
And that's actually one of the reasons why for my reading journals, which if you've seen, I've done a couple videos on that actually now. I actually have a full page in my reading journal of just new words, of words that I learned from books. Or I'm like, I don't know what this means, and I look it up, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. I learned a new word, and I love words. I think words are really cool, and I think it's kind of fun to throw that kind of stuff into writing because it's also slightly educational.
It is. It definitely is.
It's almost like I'm supposed to educate people at my job or something.
That's going to be it for today's video. I will give you a pan of our cake. But that's going to be it for today's video. Thanks for joining us. If you want us to do more baking stuff or if you want this recipe, I don't even know if I would know the recipe.
We could figure it out.
I'm sure I could figure it out. Google's your best friend.
It is.
That's going to be it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, with the occasional Sunday.
And if you want to be reminded when we post new videos, hit the little bell icon down below. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, keep reading.
Bye!